Hey Carol, this is Amanda. I wanted to go ahead and just send you a video to accompany my directed study project creation, just to kind of walk you through a little bit of what you're looking at and to answer the questions regarding the process and plan of how to share my creation. So this is kind of my way of doing the presentation to you because I know that you're out of town and I'm turning it into you past Wednesday. So if this doesn't work, let me know. I'd be happy to walk you through the creation in person once you get back or anything like that. I'd also be happy to write up the 3 to 5 paper if this does not count as a presentation. So just let me know. But if you want to go ahead and pull up my disability curriculum. So just as a refresher, my topic for my disability study is to kind of investigate the transition to parenthood when it is regarded to a child with disability and when that disability is unexpected for the parent. And so if you pull up the curriculum, I'm also going to have it over here. So just going to talk you through it just a little bit. Essentially why I decided to create a curriculum is a lot of what I realized in my exploratory phase is, especially talking with Dr. Brown and looking at a lot of resources, is the best way to equip parents for the transition that's about to come is doing education on the front end. And something that I talked a lot about with Dr. Brown is how that education on the front end ends up changing everything for the family, makes a smoother transition to parenthood, ends up making them more resilient, different stuff like that. And I wrote about that in my exploratory paper, but just a little refresher. So the reason that I decided to create a disability curriculum is this is my way of creating an intervention for parents before their child's born, so that way they're stimulating and imagining the scenario of what if my child has a disability. And if parents can go ahead and think through that now before the birth of their child, then let's say their child is born, does have an unexpected genetic condition, medical illness, disability, anything like that, experiences disability in some way, the parent is still going to be overwhelmed, but because they've done the preparation on the front end, that transition is going to be much smoother. And so I wanted to go ahead and create this intervention of education curriculum for parents to kind of imagine that scenario and all that good stuff. So if you pull up the disability curriculum, starts off, title of the curriculum, What If My Child Has a Disability? Parenthood Preparation Education Curriculum. So this is written based on my research. You'll notice that there's not a lot of citations at the end, and that's primarily because I really took the creation aspect of this to be a challenge. Like, what do I think parents need to know the most of? And it's all derived from the research in my exploratory paper, so a lot of the same citations and research, and then also just drawing on my HDFS background, what I know to be important about parents and families from countless textbooks. So obviously you have a little bit of an introduction here, why I created this, why it's important. I didn't really use first person in the creation of this curriculum, but I am the author, obviously. So this curriculum was created out of a desire to educate all future parents about their transitions, changes, supports, and considerations that a couple should think about in regards to having a child with a disability. I also mentioned preparation is vital to successful transition to parenthood, and the concept of disability deserves to be discussed for the betterment of your future child and family. So listed some objectives and goals. 3 main goals I really wanted to break down here. First is prepare future parents for how the transition to parenthood will look different if their baby is born with a disability. Goal number 2, educate future parents on the conversations and considerations surrounding the concept of disability. And goal number 3, discuss the resources, concerns, and relevant information to the future of their child. So kind of a little bit of present goals and then future goals at the end there. And then considerations, just talking about how curriculum is most effective when it's adapted to the the demographic of the population and the needs of that demographic that you are teaching. So kind of giving some license with that. And then also saying that what I'm providing is an outline of topics and concepts that need to be discussed. And then I've also included tools and materials and resources to aid that. But I did not write specific curriculum for every single topic. That would be something that this curriculum acts as an outline, and then educators could pick and choose the ones that are important to them and then go ahead and structure their curriculum from there. And that's the outline that I found for a lot of curriculums online and in my research is they're very much an outline, and then people kind of pick and choose what they want, and then within those chosen topics talk about what they consider to be important. So my curriculum is kind of broken up into 3 phases. The first is that red headline there, transition to parenthood and disability. So kind of give a little bit of an intro, list of tools and materials that I've included that I think are important, suggested topics for the educator to talk about in regards to that transition that I think are important, and then what I want the result of that phase to be. Then if you're looking at the next phase, what is disability? Again, list of tools and materials, suggested topics, what I think are important, talking about person first language, advocacy, different stuff like that. And then the third phase, looking ahead. So tools and materials, this is a lot more of a list of things to look out for in the future. So right now the family is going to have that IFSP plan, but as they head into childhood or early education, they're going to have the EIP, EIP, IEP, sorry, they're going to have the IEP, and all that good stuff, and, housing later on in life, transition plans, talking about technology, community life, all that different separate stuff, and then general human rights and disabilities. So at the very end, you see this curriculum, tools, and materials. So this is where those listed tools and materials that I just listed before, this is where I go into them. So for every single list, you're going to see either an activity, a resource, a graphic, a table I've created, and this is kind of where I've compiled the meat of the curriculum, and this is where the outline kind of starts to fluff up a little bit. So included the scenario for my exploratory paper. I created a reaction assessment scale for parents to kind of understand how they're feeling about this before they jump in. And for each of these things, I've kind of given the educator or whoever is using the curriculum an idea of how best to use the tool, or how I would suggest to use the tool. So you'll see that. And then put an excerpt from my exploratory paper, put the PDF online so that can be viewed. Again, use some figures kind of coming through here, and then reaction questions, discussion points to gauge what those participants of the curriculum are feeling up to this point. So, and I know that you can look at the rest of this here, and so kind of just that's how it's structured, and I wanted to go ahead and kind of explain that it's an outline and suggested topics, and then I created and compiled the tools, and then below really kind of dissected those tools and say, this is how I would suggest using this is how it would be helpful. And it was really, really fun to kind of create something like this. My nerdy side really came out, and that's why I emailed you on Wednesday and was like, I really want to do more for this. And honestly, it's one of those things that I really feel like I could just keep adding, but wanted to go ahead and throw it your way so you can see and kind of give me some critiques. What am I missing in regards to topics that you feel like would be important for parents to know about disability? If you don't like the way it's structured, just any type of critique is really, really helpful. But to get to, so I talked about what I created, why I chose to create it, what am I hoping sharing this will accomplish? I talk about this at the very end of the curriculum, but really hoping to accomplish kind of a threefold goal, that the curriculum exists to educate future parents, it exists to equip them, and to inspire, which is not so much of a like a concrete word as educate and equip, but I feel like it's really important because if we're talking about, a cycle of socialization and then that intersecting with the cycle of liberation, especially in regards to disability and those social stigmas, like especially in sections like this that are focused on person first language, just how education kind of creates a bridge from the cycle of socialization to the cycle of liberation, and kind of inspires parents and families and individuals to look at disability in a new light. And so that's something I really hope that this curriculum would do, is change perspectives on disability and kind of cause a ripple effect from there, that now that these people know how to really interact with disability in a way that is positive and person-centered, then the next time they hear about somebody dealing with a disability, they can take that education and that knowledge and kind of apply it and give advice that is based on a positive light of disability, which fights that social stigma. And then how does this impact people with disabilities? It impacts people with disabilities because obviously if you are educating on the front end and the child has a disability and grows up with parents that are advocates, allow self-advocacy to happen, use person first language, then that person with a disability is going to hopefully have a better outlook on who they are, and better kind of emotional regulation when it comes to dealing with how the world deals with disability and knowing how to address that in an appropriate and effective way. So that's how I hope it will impact people with disabilities. And then how will I share this? I think the best way for me to share this is with the parent-to-parent group in Georgia. They're based in Atlanta, and the reason why I really want to choose this group is because I love their vision, I love their values, and it very much aligns with why I created this curriculum, but especially because just to read you the goal of Parent to Parent really quickly, they state that their goal is to provide high quality, relevant, and useful educational opportunities to families, schools, and communities that are based upon state and national best practice and current research. So they're focused on educational opportunities. I created an educational curriculum, and I really feel like because this is a parent group, they're really going to be able to utilize this in a great way. So how I plan to do that. So the deadline for implementation is November 4th. So I've already reached out to parent and said, hey, I created this thing. It was for a school assignment, but is there any way you would want to use it, or could give me feedback on it, or have an opportunity for me to share it. And in addition to that, I'm going to reach back out to Dr. Brown and follow up with him. And he teaches a parenting class at Georgia. And just to say, hey, I created this thing. Can your students use this? Can I come and talk about it? Because it's really, really important, because college students will be parents one day. And so those are kind of my two plans of attack for implementation. And I have to in case one falls through. And so I have reached out to them. Dr. Brown, I'm going to reach out to tomorrow and pass along the curriculum and see what opportunities and what doors open. But if not, then kind of like my little bit of a backup option is look into kind of partnering up with some organizations that are in the Athens community, like Families for Change or Family Connection, and seeing if they could utilize this in their education programs, or even the Treehouse for, prevent child abuse and neglect, because a lot of times children with disabilities have a higher likelihood of becoming victims of abuse and neglect. So with that is my plan of attack. And Parent to Parent is in Atlanta, Dr. Brown's class is in Athens, and then those other organizations, Family for Change, Family Connection, the Treehouse, are also located in Athens. So that's pretty feasible. And how many people do I expect to connect with it? who knows? I guess we'll see. Either a classroom or some group of parents down in Atlanta, or hopefully provide this resource for the greater Athens community, which is pretty cool. So, any critiques of the curriculum, I would really appreciate it. It's one of those that I would love to just tweak and tweak all day, but I need to just send it to you. But I hope you're having a fantastic weekend away at that awesome conference, and I will see you in class soon. So thanks so much, Carol, and I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Okay, bye.